You know, one of the fun things about being a left-wing journalist, it seems, is that you get to play Mad Libs every day. In fact, your whole career is one giant game of Mad Libs. What was once a fun, silly game for children is now your entire profession. And that's how we end up with headlines like this one from The Independent. In this headline, it is, I assure you, completely real. It seems so much like a parody that I had to verify it like 3 times to make sure that I'm not accidentally dedicating a daily cancellation segment to a Babylon Bee satire. But this is no parody, at least not an intentional one. So here it is. How climate change is hitting vulnerable Indonesian trans sex workers. Now, I assumed that they generate these headlines through a Mad Lib style game of fill in the blanks, but now that I read it again, I'm wondering if this is more of a sort of a throwing darts at a dartboard situation. So I'm imagining 3 different dartboards, and one has a selection of cataclysmic existential threats, climate change, racism, income inequality, Donald Trump, etc. The other has the magical protected groups, black people, fat people, trans people, women, migrants, disabled people, and so on. And then there's one more dartboard, an optional 3rd category to spice things up a bit, with an array of special professions like teachers, journalists, prostitutes, Hollywood actors, and then a number of even more, maybe like very specific and sort of smaller job categories. So you throw a dart at each board and you see where it lands, and then you have your article. And you can even throw multiple darts at each board to make it more sort of a niche. And the options are endless. How racism is impacting gay black DoorDash drivers. How Donald Trump is causing income inequality among disabled migrant teachers. How fat phobia is traumatizing bisexual women in Hollywood. The combinations are nearly endless. And this time around, the darts landed on climate change, trans, sex workers, and Indonesian. Apparently, there's a 4th dartboard with a list of nationalities. So let's read a little bit of this article. And I know that you, have likely been awake at night, tossing and turning, anxious, fretting, worried about how inclement weather might be affecting Indonesian prostitutes. And, well, here's your answer. Reading now. It says, Joya Patia, a 43-year-old Indonesian transgender woman, first started to notice that changing weather patterns in the mountain-ringed city of Bandung were affecting her income as a sex worker a decade ago. The rainy season was lasting longer across the West Java province. Winds were stronger, and in particularly bad years, Patia lost up to 80% of her earnings. Trans women like Patia are among the most affected by extreme weather linked to climate change, as well as suffering disproportionately when disaster strikes. Quote, no one is coming out during the longer rainy season. It's very hard to make money during that unpredictable weather. The Indonesian government has a 5-year plan setting out its development objectives and how it will manage the impact of climate change. And although this includes provisions for vulnerable groups, trans people are not listed among them. Some trans women are seeking to find their own solution. To raise awareness about climate change, Sangar Saroja puts on movie nights and fashion shows and hosts discussions with other queer communities. The group also surveyed 80 members of the trans community in Jakarta to find out how climate change affected incomes, frequency of illness, and changes in spending from 2021 to 2022. Nearly 93% of respondents saw decreased income during the rainy season, and 72% had increased expenses. Okay, so that's the story. Deserving of a headline in a major global news publication, no doubt. Apparently, prostitutes are inconvenienced by rain. Now, trans prostitutes are inconvenienced the most somehow for reasons that are never explained. Sports betting with BetOnline can be intriguing, even if you're not a diehard sports fan. Beyond traditional sports, BetOnline gives you the option to bet on political events, whether it's predicting the outcome of the presidential election, if Hunter Biden will serve jail time before 2025, or who will be the next Republican speaker. Political betting allows you to wager on real-world events outside the realm of sports. If you're a diehard sports fan, BetOnline makes sports betting more accessible and convenient than ever before. With just a few clicks, you can place bets on your favorite teams or events from the comfort of your own home. BetOnline prides themselves on their higher-than-average betting limits of up to $25,000, and you can increase your wagering amounts by contacting their player services desk by phone or email. So while you're watching your favorite team or the news on upcoming elections, why not spice things up with a friendly wager with BetOnline? Go to betonline.ag to place your bets today. Use promo code Walsh for a 50% instant deposit bonus of up to $1,000. That's betonline.ag and use promo code Walsh. BetOnline. The options are endless. I admit that I actually found this element of the story a bit surprising. Does business slow down all that much for prostitutes when it rains? Perhaps so. I couldn't say. It's far outside my own area of expertise. But if you're the kind of person who likes to go trawling in the streets of the third world for prostitutes, I wouldn't think you'd be dissuaded by a bit of rain. Like if you're in Indonesia and you're saying to yourself, I want to go down to this filthy street corner here and find a prostitute. Are you really going to look out your window and say, it's raining, never mind. Forget it. I only look for impoverished third world prostitutes when it's sunny out. You think like a poncho and an umbrella would seem to solve the problem, but I don't know. Besides, if the whole idea is that prostitutes, trans prostitutes in particular, are especially burdened by bad weather because they work outdoors, you would think that this is a concern that would apply to a huge number of Indonesians, including those many Indonesians who perform actual productive labor. I mean, tens of millions of people in the country work in industries like agriculture, forestry, mining, fishing, tourism. I mean, regular tourism, not sex tourism. And all of those industries and many more are greatly impacted by weather conditions. And one would think that they are even more impacted than prostitutes. Meanwhile, they are, again, performing actual productive and important jobs, but they don't even get a mention in The Independent because the Independent is a left-wing rag, and left-wing rags hate nothing so much as productive, normal people. But this is all a bit of a moot point because you may notice that the writer of this article never bothers to provide any evidence supporting the foundational premise, which is that climate change has made the weather measurably worse in Indonesia. After all, Indonesia has always had a rainy season for Indonesian prostitutes and everyone else in the country, but who cares about them, to contend with. And the rainy season, is the rainy season really that much rainier now? We're given no information to support that assertion. The only data point provided is that one 43-year-old trans prostitute thinks that it seems like it rains more now than it did 10 years ago. The anecdotal observation of a single middle-aged prostitute is all the evidence we're given. This is how science is done, apparently. Now, far be it from me to question this prostitute's meteorological expertise, but I did feel the need to cross-reference the claim. And so here's a chart from Statista.com that shows annual rainfall totals in Indonesia from 1901 to 2020. As you can see, leaving aside one big spike in 2010, the totals have been pretty consistent over the past century or so. They had 3,073 millimeters in 1910 and 3,096 in 2020. That's a difference of about 1 inch of rainfall total in the whole year. A difference so minuscule that not even a trans prostitute could possibly detect it. So the whole premise of the article is totally fake and made up, which is probably all that needed to be said about any of this, if anything needed to be said at all, which it didn't. And that is ultimately the reason why The Independent is today canceled. If you'd like to see what else I have to say, you can access my full show by going to dailywire.com or by going to the Matt Walsh Show Twitter page. Hope to see you there. Godspeed.